Hi, it's Gareth here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about booze, the demon drink, daddy special medicine, as some people might be calling it. And the reason for that is, as I record this video, it's approaching 6 years since I decided to stop drinking. And as far as I can work out, a lot of people are thinking more about either reducing their alcohol intake or stopping drinking altogether. So if that might be of interest to you too, good. Sit down, relax, and enjoy this episode. If this is your first time here, welcome. I hope you find the channel valuable. If you do, I would absolutely love it if you would click the like button on this video. It really helps a small channel like this because it helps the algorithm show this video to more people. If this isn't your first time here, welcome back and thanks for joining me once more. Okay, first things first, let's rewind to the back end of December 2015, which is when I was experiencing something I have later learned to be described as being sober curious. In other words, I was starting to ask myself some questions about how much I wanted alcohol to feature in my life. There was no big reason for this. There was no intervention. I wasn't about to go on a 12 steps program. It just felt like something I was getting more and more interested in. And so I decided at the stroke of midnight to put my glass down and go dry for January 2016. This was not the first dry January I'd done. In fact, it was probably about the fourth or fifth time. If you don't know what dry January is, it's where people give up booze for a month to compound the misery of there being fewer daylight hours and having spent all their money in December on Christmas gifts for people that they don't like. Usually by the end of January, I was absolutely ready to pick up a drink again and go back to my usual habits. But in the run up to that particular new year, I had seen a social post from a friend who was talking about having stopped drinking. This was interesting to me because in all previous attempts at dry January, I felt like I was giving something up. Something wasn't there for the entire month. And then come February, it was back again. Having seen that social post, I went into this particular dry January actually expecting to get things rather than lose things. I was interested to see whether I would get any of the same benefits as my friends. Things like better sleep, improved skin, better connections with friends, feeling healthier, and so on. Going into it, that mindset was completely different that year, and I quickly began to notice some of those same benefits that my friend had posted about. By the end of January that year, I felt really good and thought, you know what, I'm just going to carry on doing this and see how long I can stretch this out for. I ended up going through to April 2016, so 4 months all told, and at that point I actually went away on a business trip to Las Vegas, and so it's Vegas, right? You can't not drink. But I didn't go crazy whilst I was there, maybe had 6-10 drinks the entire week and then came home again back to the UK. Having had those drinks in Vegas, they were nice, but I didn't immediately think, wow, I've really missed this. I'm definitely going back to drinking again. In fact, the opposite was true. When I returned to the UK, I resolved to try another stint and see how long that one would last. Now, I don't remember exactly how long that next dry stint lasted, but it was somewhere around 4 to 6 months before I had another drink. And I remember at the time having the drink and thinking, I kind of feel a bit disappointed with myself that I've broken that dry spell run. I'll do it again, only this time I'll see if I can go a bit longer. And so that's what I did. And I only broke my dry spell very occasionally for big events. I had a couple of drinks at Christmas, I had a couple of drinks at the birth of my son, and again, a couple of drinks at my 40th birthday. Each time I had a drink, it kind of felt nice. It sort of reminded me why I drank in the first place. But the longer those dry spells went on for, the less and less enjoyment I found I had from having a drink. In fact, the longer those dry spells went on, what I started to notice was that feeling that you get after your first drink, where you feel maybe more relaxed, a bit more sociable, like you're ready for a good time. I actually started to enjoy that feeling less and less. It actually got to the point where now, if I have a drink, I really dislike that feeling, that slight level of intoxication. I just want it to stop as soon as I notice it. And that to me is just plain weird, because during my 20s and 30s, that was the exact reason why I did drink. To feel more confident, to feel more sociable, to have a good time. It almost felt like if I was at a party or a social event, if I didn't drink, something was missing and I wasn't having as much fun as when I did. The last time I had a drink was Christmas 2020, and again, I didn't go crazy. I had maybe 4 or 5 drinks over the space of 2 days, and whilst they were kind of nice, they were also kind of not that nice. I didn't really feel like they added anything to my experience of Christmas, and so I pretty much decided there and then that I probably wasn't going to drink ever again. Now, these are words that I did not, as a 20 or 30-year-old, imagine that would ever come from my mouth, but here we are. And so now, the longer and longer this dry period lasts for me, the more and more it sort of becomes a thing. It's a bit of a talking point when people find out about it, and I've been asked lots and lots of questions about why I stopped, what the benefits are, what I've noticed, how do I starting drinking again, and so on. So I thought I'd try and cover off some of the things that I've learned in the last 5 and say 3/4 years of not drinking. All right, so the first thing that I think will be really helpful to anyone who's planning to reduce their alcohol intake is look for the best opportunity to start doing that. For me, dry January was a really easy in because many people were doing it. So it sort of felt pretty normal to be not drinking for a month. The difference was I had secretly decided that I was going to go way longer for a month, but I just didn't tell anybody that. The second thing that I think was super helpful from my experience was to change your mindset. If you're going to use dry January as your in, think of all the things that you expect to get in terms of benefits during the month, rather than mourning the loss of alcohol for the month. In my case, I paid attention to what I was noticing during that January, and what I began to notice was I was sleeping better, my mood was improved, likewise my skin, and something I wasn't expecting, by the end of that month, my bank balance felt really healthy. This was a really big surprise to me because I wouldn't have classed myself as a big drinker, but I certainly noticed the difference in the spend that I was incurring in that month. That made it a really easy decision for me come February that year to just continue to not drink. I started to notice more and more of those benefits. They compounded and I was really feeling good. The best I had in a long time, actually. And after a month or so of not drinking, you too may notice some of those same benefits. But the thing to watch out for is what happens after then. This is when questions from friends and family members will start to come rolling in. People will begin to notice if you don't drink for an extended period of time. And you can expect to get questions from them about why you're not drinking, surely that thing that you did last month has finished by now, and so on. Which brings me to my next point. The thing that helped me a lot there was to tell people when they asked that I had quit drinking, even when I hadn't actually decided to quit drinking. Let me explain. The reason for doing that is because the biggest problem with not drinking is other people's inability to deal with you not drinking. There is something about a sober person that for a drinker is quite confronting. Either they will think that that person somehow is not fun, that there's some sort of problem that they daren't ask questions about, that they've been on a 12 steps program, they had some awful experience years ago and ended up in jail and now they don't drink because you get the idea. The other thing that people will try and do is to negotiate with you if you tell them that you're simply drinking less. So let's say you do a dry month and you meet up with some people around about the 6-week mark. They may start to pile on some peer pressure and say, come on, it's been ages since we've seen you, stop being boring, why don't you have just one? One's not going to hurt, is it? I'm going to the bar, let me buy you something, blah, 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 blah. That level of pressure can be quite hard to resist. And so I decided to simply tell people that I'd quit drinking because there is no negotiating with that. It is final. Hey, how come you're not drinking tonight? Well, I quit. Hey, can I get you a drink from the bar? No, thanks, I don't drink. It just felt simpler for me to use that white lie to manage the kind of social pressure and questions that I was starting to experience around about the 6-8 week mark. Linked to that, you may need to be on your guard for when you begin to tell people that you have quit drinking, if that's the strategy you decide to employ as well. It's almost like they expect there to be an explanation, like because this happened. And so prepare yourself for that. Don't feel like you need to explain it or offer anything else other than I've stopped drinking, if that's what you decide to tell people. Just letting that silence hang after you've said it might be a little bit uncomfortable for you and for them, but generally I found if people had questions they would ask me, and I felt pretty comfortable talking about why. I was simply looking to reduce my alcohol intake, get healthier, and so on. Most people seem to accept that. There are a couple of other things to watch out for as well based on my own experience. The first is the moment when you realise just how pervasive alcohol is. Now, here in the UK, we have a big drinking culture. So it's just something people do. Social events are based around alcohol. People celebrate victories by going out for a drink. They console themselves having had some bad news by going out for a drink. There's a sit down with a meal even at home and have a glass of wine thing. It's just kind of part of the fabric of society. However, when you stop drinking for a period of time, the longer that period goes on, you will start to notice just how much of society functions around alcohol. The longer you spend not drinking, the more you come out of that culture of drinking, and you're able to observe it from the outside looking in. This includes things like, in my experience, going to a pub for a meal and seeing that they were selling Prosecco ice lollies on the table. It just seemed really weird to me for some reason at the time. And the other thing that you'll probably notice, this has happened to me a few times, and it's not a criticism at all, but sometimes friends, family members, co-workers, they might gift you with alcohol because that's just a gift that people give. But there are ways around that. You could simply tell them that you don't drink any longer, thanking them for the gift and the thought, of course. Maybe you could re-gift that gift to someone else. Maybe you could stash it away for a special occasion, a bit like I did at the outset, only drinking at Christmas and birthday, for instance, and just leave it there for later. Another thing that you might begin to notice over time, which can be really uncomfortable, is when you begin to notice that some of the places that you used to frequent, some of the people that you used to spend time with, and some of the conversations that you used to enjoy having without alcohol do not work for you anymore. That can be kind of weird. I can think back to a time in my 30s when I was drinking pretty regularly, and the crowd of people I was hanging around with and the venues that I used to go to, and honestly, I wouldn't have gone there and drunk as much as I did and spent as much time talking with that particular group of people if I was sober. I can say that now because I have that perspective. And again, that's not a criticism of those people, those venues, those conversations. That was where my life was at the time. However, alcohol can do funny things and make you tolerate people, conversations, and places in a way that you just aren't prepared to when you're sober. This can be really uncomfortable, but it also gives you a really good opportunity to actually begin to examine some questions about how you do want to spend your time if it's not drinking in social venues, and the sort of people that you might want to spend your time with. This for me has proven to be a major benefit in terms of the amount of fulfillment that I get from the things that I do. And of course, none of those things mean I wake up in the morning with a depleted bank balance and a banging headache. Now, back in 2016, when I decided to not drink, I felt like a bit of an outlier. There weren't many people around me who'd also decided to do the same. Now, as I record this in 2021, my perception is that there are many more people who are curious about reducing their alcohol intake or thinking about stopping completely. During the time that I've not been drinking, I have noticed that the selection of alcohol-free drinks has also improved, and that social venues do cater for non-drinkers more than I think they used to. In other words, you're probably not going to feel completely freakish and unusual, a bit like I sometimes felt I was back in 2016, if you decide to reduce or stop your alcohol intake. As of right now, I can honestly say I feel the best that I have felt in a long time, and I think a big part of that is down to not drinking. For me, the benefits of not drinking have been so great that it really was a fairly easy switch to stop drinking. Over the last nearly 6 years now, I've given myself permission to have a drink if I wanted one, and I've definitely done that on some big occasions, but really now I'm in a place where I don't feel like I need to pick up another drink again. And I should underscore just how odd it would have felt in my 20s or 30s to know that in my 40s, that's what I'd be saying. But you know, that's what happened. So if you too find yourself being sober curious or thinking about reducing or stopping your alcohol intake, I hope this video has given you a bit of a heads up about what you can expect. For me, the benefits of not drinking have been absolutely huge, and I can't recommend it enough. That being said, I do recognize that you should be free to make your own choices. I have been very careful. I hope to not preach or evangelize for the sober world. So when I'm amongst friends and family, if they want to drink, that's absolutely fine by me. Even if they want to drink to excess, again, go nuts. I really don't mind. All right, so there we have it. That's a whistle-stop tour through the last almost 6 years of not drinking. I wonder what questions you may have about this. Why don't you let me know in the comments whether you've stopped or reduced your alcohol intake? Is your experience the same as mine? If you are contemplating reducing or stopping your alcohol intake and I have not mentioned something in this video, then please leave a question down below and I will do my best to answer all of them. Also, fun fact, around about 3/4 of you watching this video are not yet subscribed to the channel. If you like what you've seen in this video, I post new content each week and I would love you to not miss out on any of that. So please do click the subscribe button so that you don't miss out. It also really helps the channel and I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.